Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 450th episode of my series, where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So today I get to touch on an OG who's slowly become one of hip-hop's most enigmatic personalities, especially since he started dominating the podcast world alongside his partner Jadakiss. And of course, I'm talking about DITC's own Fat Joe. I'm really happy to finally cross this legend off the list for numerous reasons. One being that now I've done a review for just about every member of the Diggin' in the Crates crew outside of Buck Wild, and these include other 90s icons like Big L, Diamond D, Lord Finesse, Showbiz and AG, as well as OC. But I also wanted to talk about Joe today because even though he's pretty easily the most famous living member of DITC, weirdly his discography doesn't often get praised to the level of his contemporaries. And while I think there's plenty of highlights on the first 4 or 5 Fat Joe LPs, you don't often really see one of his projects in the list of the best hip-hop albums of the 90s. But you almost always find those other artists from DITC that I named, even if they aren't necessarily the household name that Fat Joe is for the culture. Of course, even outside his recent success in the podcast space, the average rap fan most likely would at least be familiar with him through hit singles like Lean Back, What's Love, or All the Way Up. But in terms of full-length albums that are front to back pretty consistent, I think Joe's best work came in the 90s, and the top of the heap for me came with 1998's Don Cartagena, which was Joey Crack's third studio LP. I'll probably get into the projects that preceded this one eventually, including Joe's 1993 debut, Represent, and the 1995 follow-up, Jealous One's Envy. I also wouldn't mind getting 2001's JOSE or Jealous One's Still Envy, along with either of the studio LPs by Terror Squad. But outside of the legendary 1998 solo debut from Big Pun, Capital Punishment, I think Don Cartagena might be the strongest Terror Squad related release outside of that. In fact, I really hadn't given the Fat Joe discography a solid try in a few years prior to finding the vinyl and writing this review, so I was actually pretty heavily impressed with how consistent, cinematic, and enjoyable this thing was virtually across the board, much more than I remembered. The production really fits into the overall theme of the album, which is sort of Godfather-esque, and despite Joe not exactly being a top-tier lyricist, or the first person who comes to mind when you think of extremely technically proficient MCs, I do still feel like he's sort of always been overlooked and kind of underutilized in that department, probably due to his proximity to Big Pun, who overshadowed everyone he rapped along with. Personally, I think if you're judging Fat Joe separately as his own artist, which is more than fair considering he started years before Pun and played an instrumental role in putting him on and getting him signed, there's plenty of highlights to be found on his third LP here. And for me, a lot of that has to do with his bravado voice, his booming energy, and the fact that he's never seemed to have any issue letting someone else shine as a guest appearance on a track, which really shows the mark of a true collaborator in my opinion. There's a laundry list of features on this LP from names both in and outside of Terror Squad, and those come from the likes of Big Pun, Prospect, Armageddon, Charlie Baltimore, Rel, Cuban Link, Triple Sace, all of Terror Squad, Puff Daddy, Nas, Jadakiss, Raekwon, Noriega, as well as both Lazy Bone and Crazy Bone of Bone Thugs and Harmony. As for the grimy, hard-hitting production on this thing, it was handled by talented people like Armageddon, Baby Paul, Buck Wild, Kurt Gowdy, Dane Grease, J.A.O., L.E.S., Mac 10, Rashad Smith, Ski Beats, Spunk Bigga, VIC, Young Lord, DJ Premier, and Marley Marl. It was pretty easy to trim down my top 3 favorite songs this time around, and those would definitely have to be John Blaze, The Crack Attack, and Triplets, And then as for the honorable mentions that I definitely still want to shout out, and triplets. Then for the honorable mentions that I still want to give a shout out to, I want to recommend tracks like Bet Ya Man Can't, Triz, Find Out, My World, Walk On By, Dat Gangsta Shit, The Hidden Hand, Good Times, and Terror Squadians. Thank you for watching my 450th video. Next time we have another non-hip-hop affair, and it happens to come from one of my favorite living artists, which is why I have a tattoo of her face on my arm. So check out for that one, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite songs are off of this album from the Captain of Cap. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.